the co-host of the partial. You want me to start now?
No, we're good.
Okay. So my name is Jesse Lubinsky. I'm the Chief Learning Officer for Ready Learner One. I'm also the co-host of the Partial Credit Podcast, along with these two fine folks who I'm going to introduce momentarily. And we are also authorized ViewSonic trainers. That's kind of why we're here, not just because we have a podcast, but we actually
two-thirds of us are, to be fair. Two-thirds of us are.
So
there's one.
So first, actually, let me introduce Jeffrey Heil, who's coming to us from San Diego. He is a public school teacher out there, and he's been there for many years, which you can tell by the gray beard. And then my other co-host is Mr. Donnie Piercey. Donnie is an elementary teacher coming to us from Lexington, Kentucky, by way of Massachusetts. If you sense any tension between Donnie and I, it's mostly because I'm a New Yorker and he's from Massachusetts. So with the baseball playoffs coming up, usually there's a little, this time of year is not super great for Donnie and I. But Donnie is also the 2021 Kentucky State Teacher of the Year. And if you're coming to us from overseas, that's kind of a big deal if you're in Kentucky. If you're outside of Kentucky, not as big of a deal. But Donnie, actually, they just announced a new Teacher of the Year. So he is no longer the Teacher of the Year. He is for like another 5 minutes. Jeff is not the California State Teacher of the Year, but he did once have dinner with RoboCop. So thank you both. Yeah, thank you both for joining me. And Barry, thanks for having the three of us on.
And I believe Barry promised me a free ham if I showed up. So I just want to make sure that that deal is still on the table.
It is definitely on the table. I'm actually eating it now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So basically, I invite you guys here to really help teachers understand how they can use this in their classroom. So any tips and tricks that you guys have found? I know teachers sometimes just struggle with getting started and using it in the simplest form. We've all had a rough 18 months, so we want to keep things simple and easy for people and a way to engage our students.
So absolutely. We just spent a ton of time on the road, going to schools all over the country, showing them the ViewBoard software. So I'm actually going to take the lead tonight and show you a couple of workflows I really like. And if you join us on Thursday, Jeff's going to be sharing a bunch of his favorite things as well. And Donnie's going to be kind of moderating that conversation. I just want to give a shout out to the person who taught me everything I know about ViewSonic software. And that is our good friend from Australia, Jim Sill, who is here with us in the chat. So he is the ViewSonic guru. And thank you, Jim. So, I think one of the things we saw with a lot of these schools we went to over the summer was, everyone is kind of struggling to make this transition back from, remote learning and hybrid learning and kind of back into the classroom. And I think everyone's still kind of trying to figure out what their workflows need to look like. And that's one of the things I love the most about the myViewBoard software is I kind of view it as instructional glue, because if you're in a classroom, you may be showing, 2 websites, a video, you annotating a PDF. There's so many things you have to do in the course of one lesson that you've prepared for that it's hard to do, especially if you're a secondary teacher. You have 3 minutes in between class periods that you're expected to do all this, and you need at least 2 of those to go to the bathroom, preferably in the bathroom. I don't know, it depends on your proximity to the bathroom, but that's one of the things I love about the ViewBoard software. So I'm actually going to be showing you something. And I wanted to show this. I'm holding an ID 1330, a ViewSonic ID 1330 pen display. So, yep, there's Barry, who is also seen on there. So you're basically seeing a duplication.
Her color looks better, actually, in that one.
It's true. So I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to be able to do is open up my ViewBoard software. And Jeff actually showed me this a long time ago, but when I had that ViewBoard software open, one of my favorite things was actually using the companion app, which is available for iPhone and for Android, to log in to your system. So basically, if you have that companion app and you sign in, the beautiful thing is all of your stuff will come up. So I'm just going to show my QR code and it's going to log me in. And you can tell that I'm logged in because now, I don't know if you see up in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, there's my Bitmoji and my name is there. So I know I'm logged in. If you have not been logging in when you've been using my ViewBoard software, you're missing out because you have the ability to connect your your Office, your Google Drive, all of that can be connected. Office 365, Google Drive can be connected so that you can work with those documents. So very quickly, I'm just going to pull together a couple of resources I might want in my lesson. So under using the table tool, which can be found down at the shapes tool, if you've ever used that, you might notice that under here, there's a cool table tool. I can actually pull together a table. Maybe I want the students to complete some information on the table. Maybe I want to bring in a PDF file that I might have stored in Google Drive. And the way I would do that is on my lower part of the toolbar, we have the magic box here. I can click on the magic box and notice next to my hard drive, there's a Google Drive icon. That Google Drive icon is actually going to bring me to my connected Google Drive. So if I just scroll through and look, I can go to my lessons and I could just pull together, I'll pull in this worksheet that I want to work on. So if I just go to my page manager, which can be found down here on my floating toolbar, notice I now have that first page, which was the table. It brought in those PDF files. I might want to get rid of those answer keys. And Jeff, what kind of resource should I add next?
I am actually manning the chat, so you can add.
Well,
Let's
Jeff,
say there's
I think
yeah.
what I would do if I were you, if you're adding on, one of the things that I think we should definitely bring up is all the amazing backgrounds. Sorry, I was chatting with folks, but that 100%. Participate, I'm going to save that for Thursday, because Donnie and I are going to talk about some elementary tips and tricks.
Oh,
but
cool.
These backgrounds are absolutely amazing. When you go into all of the backgrounds that ViewSonic has sort of semi-commissioned to have people make for them, the backgrounds are absolutely insane. So click on the ViewSonic one. Yeah, all of those.
Actually, Donnie, you might love these. So these maps here, I can actually insert as a background. I can just apply it to this page. But now, because it's a background, we could actually add objects over it and annotate the map itself. And because it's part of ViewSonic's library, we also know that it's compliant with Creative Commons and things like that.
Yeah, so several teachers in my school actually use like that morning background as part of their morning check-in procedure. So, on the ViewSonic, they have their ViewSonic boards at the front of the room. And when students get there, they use it for everything. So what do you want for lunch that day? To even giving the students options over like, like what do they want to do for the class party? So, anything that's up there, it's interactive. And some of those backgrounds are really, really helpful because it's kind of that consistent thing that's just a click away.
Donnie, are you telling me you use ViewSonic software to help choose who's going to bring what to the class party?
Imagine that.
Yeah. So I also just went under the magic box and did a search for YouTube videos. And you can see if I find the YouTube video I want, when I click on it, it actually becomes an embedded object in my ViewBoard file. So just taking a look at the page manager so far, what we have here, we have a table we created using the shapes tool. We have a PDF file that we brought in. We added a background that we might want to annotate. We added a YouTube video. And then finally, the last thing I'll add before I just show this piece is I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to the Chrome icon right here. And I'm going to use a website that our good friend Dan Sharp always uses when he shows these demos. He uses the FET website. If I were to find the area builder is one that we love here. So FET is a great simulation website that Dan has shared with us. But what's great about this website is now that I have it as a tool for exploration, I can actually click the icon right here that says add web page to the canvas as a widget. And when I click on that, it actually adds it to the page as an object, which can be expanded and used in a variety of different ways. So if we take a look at the 6 pages I have here, I have a bunch of different types of objects and resources, right? We have our YouTube video, we have a website, we have all of that. The great part about this is now part of one file that I can save and have prepared for any of my lessons. So let's say I teach this particular class 3 or 4 times over the course of the day. Well, using the file manager tool down here, I can actually save this. We can give it a name, right? We'll save it to our desktop. and I'll just call it demo. And I'm going to be saving this so that I can open this whenever I want. When I get to school that day and want to open up my lesson, I can just open it up and everything's here and prepared and ready for me to go. Once I finish annotating this over the course of the lesson, so for instance, if I go up to my table and I'll just use my pen tool here and, you know, write a little bit. Let's say we wrote a bunch of stuff. This is actually what Jeff's handwriting looks like, by the way.
It really is. To that point, it really is.
You would think Jeff was actually writing this as we speak. So I've annotated this. Maybe we've gone to our you know, we've used the infinite canvas here to zoom in. I maybe had some students come up and do some marking up in red. So what was the action verb? Listens, hits, right? A lot of different things we could do here. Now that I have this done and ready to go, at the ends of the lesson, what happens? Well, there's a couple things. First, in many states here in the United States, there are requirements for us to have to provide class notes to students if they have some type of accommodation that says that they can get class notes. In addition, when you think about the fact that, you know, we have been working in a hybrid environment still in some schools, and we still are not quite sure what's going to happen this year with the pandemic, we want to make sure we have a way to capture all that learning that we're doing in class and providing it to students who might not be in the room with us. So one of my absolute favorite things that I've seen in the myViewBoard software can actually be found under that file menu that we took a look at a second ago, where I saved the file. And that's this QR code here. Jeff, do you want to tell us a little bit about this QR code?
Oh, do you want to click on it?
I don't know if you want to prepare people, because if people are not ready for what's going to happen.
Well, I absolutely love this. And what Jesse has done is sort of showed you how the workflows that a teacher is going to use is going to be very individual based on the teacher. But traditionally, and Donnie and I were talking about this because Donnie has been an elementary teacher most of his career. Elementary teachers do a lot of routines, and they have a lot of things where it's recursive. They're going to do it over and over again. So it makes a lot of sense for your elementary teachers to spend a lot of time prepping these things in advance and then be able to use them and annotate on top of them. So let's say Donnie had this as this was always his unit 3, the unit 3 lesson on week 6 that he was going to do. And then he annotates on top of it. When he goes to share this out again, he can share it with all of the annotations. So what he can do is he can click on the QR code, and the kids can essentially grab the QR code, and they can download all of the notes from this entire presentation, entire whiteboard file, as a PDF.
And I just want to show, when you click on the QR code, it says share whiteboard by QR code. This first saves a copy of your default cloud storage. Remember, I have my Google Drive linked. So let's see what happens here. I click yes. You'll see it's processing the canvases. And it's going to give us that quick link.
2 things. It's going to give you 2 things.
Right. So we have the QR code itself, and we have that short link. Now, what I've been telling teachers is what they really should care about here is that short link. Because if you take that short link and you share that on your classroom website, that's it. You've just shared a copy of the class notes. Now, I know that one. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Donnie.
Well, I was going to say too, like, you know, you spoke so much about elementary school. You know, a lot of times parents are often like, okay, what did you do in school today?
That's great, Donnie.
You know, you can always have at the end of every day, and a lot of us, we get into that habit of sending that daily or weekly email. You know, at the end of each week, you could have one PDF that's saved to your Google Drive. You just click it. Parents, here's everything that we did this week. You know, be warned, some of this might be written by a student, so if the handwriting doesn't look great. But, you know, I think for a lot of parents, that might give them in kind of an easy way, just a simple click, kind of a mind the pun, but like a view into what's going on in your into your classroom.
And actually, I just want to pull up in Drive to show you what that looks like. I'm in the wrong Google Drive, so we'll add one. But, you know, one of the things people often struggle with is the what do I do when I have all these multiple classes? So in other words, I have more than one class. Can I just have one copy of my notes? Well, the problem is when I've done that in the past, my students will often say, you don't always get to the same place with each class. You get up to different places. So This is a one-click solution to saving all the individual notes for each class. So if I go to my drive and go to my view board, there's a QR share folder. When you scroll down, you'll actually see we have one from 7/13 tonight. And if we click on that, you'll see this is a PDF copy of those notes that we had.
Well, and
So-
Jesse, could you do me a favor too? Do you see up the top where it's got that QR share folder?
Yep.
You could even simplify this because that folder could also be made public, right? Where anyone with the link can view it. So in
100%.
theory, you could just have that folder linked on your website, linked in Google Classroom, even like at the bottom of your email signature. So if students or parents ever wanted to see, they can always open it up and just find the most recent one.
And
Donnie,
that's why, wait, hold on. That's why you're Teacher of the Year, Donnie. So I've been with ViewSonic 2 years. I never thought of just sharing that folder. That
By
is
the way,
brilliant.
That is not why he's Teacher of the Year. He's Teacher of the Year because he stuffed ballots.
It's actually a 24/7 belt. I just took it back.
I just want to remind all our guests though that the myViewBoard folder is automatically generated as soon as they not as soon as, let's give it a few hours after they first enroll their account. So that'll pop up and you'll get more folders here as you use different features in our software.
So some of the other things here just highlight some of the amazing features. I know Jeff loves the throw feature, being able to throw images from your phone to the screen.
Well, and for elementary, we'll talk on Thursday about changing or adding some shapes or things, changing some of the pens that we use. But in that folder of the QR codes, I would both push that out to Google Classroom, and I would also make sure that I've named each of the. I would make sure that we have these files named just by date and year. So it'd be very, very easy, even though you're going to see modification days in the folder. But to make it very simple for parents, just name it of that date, and it would be very easy for folks to access that.
What I've been telling teachers with the workflow is if you look at, you could actually dissect this, right?
I see the date,
year, date, time, and then military time. But what I've been telling teachers
nobody has time to read all of that, Jesse.
100%.
Nobody has time to read all of that.
But what I've been telling teachers is, let's say you missed the short link, you can always go in here and just rename the files. Renaming the files will not impact the short link. The short link is connected to the Google Drive address, not to the name of the file. So you can feel free to name these in a way that makes sense for you. Maybe to expand on Donnie's point, you create subfolders here for your individual classes if you have multiple classes. I think if you're an elementary teacher like Donnie, share the whole folder out because it's going to be the one class.
One other thing. Yeah. You go first, Donnie.
We'll do paper, rock, scissors. No,
we're all so polite. Exactly.
I know,
you go first, Donnie.
Yeah, but Barry, if you've used Google Classroom before, the folder that's created, it's similar to that. I mean, everything that you make in Google Classroom goes in the Google Classroom folder. Right. With this, anything that you save in myViewBoard automatically gets dropped into that folder.
Yes. So one other thing I just wanted to remind everyone about too is that you share. So when you were doing your class, there was a YouTube video. So I often get this question like, I'm sharing a video through PDF. Obviously, the students can't watch it, but in that PDF, it actually has the URL. So if the student was not in class, they can on their own time watch that video and feel as if they attained all the day's experience.
You're absolutely right, but I would definitely recommend as a best practice. One thing we've been sharing with people is, even though the video is here, and even though yes, it will show on the PDF, it doesn't hurt to add a text box here using the text box tool that just has a little bit of information on the video, just in case.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And just a point of clarification, I normally wouldn't have to step in and correct my good friend Donnie Piercey, but paper, rock, scissor.
Never played paper, rock, scissors?
It's rock, paper, scissors.
Nah, whatever. Y'all are so backwards.
And you notice he said scissor singularly, so it's only one of the two pieces of the scissor.
That wasn't my problem. My problem was that he put paper before rock. I've never heard it called paper, rock, scissor.
Paper, rock, scissors.
And then will you do me also one other favor? Because you guys are like always on fire. So can we just go back to showing how we added the graph real quick?
Saw that question. And the other question that came up while Jesse's finding that was about when you log into the myViewBoard software, once your organization has connected and linked your account, as Barry said earlier, you will always log in with Google with that school account. You will not even though it's there for you to hand enter your email and password, always use sign in with Google, because that will ensure that your work will always be in your drive, whether it's your Google Drive or your OneDrive. Make sure you're signing in with the account with whatever the school is using.
Barry, did you mean the background?
No, I meant the actual the first thing you did was add the graph.
Table.
The table. Okay.
That question came up. Yeah.
So the table, this is fun. This is under the shapes menu. Under the every menu is click it once to activate it, click it twice for the extra options. Under the extra options under the shapes menu, we have 3-dimensional shapes and lines and arrows. But this last one here is like a make your own table tool. So I could actually specify, if I need a 4x5 or whatever I need, I can get it, and then I could actually resize it or do whatever I need to do, column by column. But just for the math people out here, I feel like I need to give one little bonus perk thing. And Jeff, I don't know if you've seen this. This is one of my favorite things. If you go under the magic box, there's actually a cool little math. The math stuff here. But the one that I absolutely love, and I kind of just discovered this by accident because you mentioned graph. You could just use graph paper from the background menu, but I love this XY coordinate grid. That when I drag it on here, I actually get an XY coordinate grid that I could resize and change I can make a lot of modifications and really customize this and draw my lines right on here. So there's a ton of resources. I mean, you could spend a full day going through the entire myViewBoard software to see all the different little tools and perks and apps they have for teachers. But like I always say, I love the ViewSonic hardware, but the real magic is in the myViewBoard software.
Absolutely, and to clarify too, if you're new to this, Jesse, when he pulled that up from the magic box, there was a whole bunch of widgets in the magic box. Go ahead.
I'll open that again.
Yeah, and even what you see in that top menu bar there, where you can link a document, camera, etc. That you only get the full functionality of that when you log in. What I've always said is the greatest thing about the ViewSonic is its floor is so high, meaning that if you only do the most basic things with this software, you have a great display that is indestructible, and you have an amazing whiteboard. But when you log in, you essentially take all of that existing power and you've just created I don't even know that there's a ceiling. So why I've agreed and always been super happy to teach teachers how to use this is because the floor is so high, and the ceiling to me is only up to the imagination of the educator, and it'll work from K through higher ed, because we're going to talk about on Thursday a blend of how Donnie would use it with elementary and maybe pre-create. But for me, it would be a lot about using this board as a teaching tool and recording myself or my students and being able to save those recordings of either me reteaching or having students reteach. So you've got so many options with this thing.
And keep in mind, we've really only scratched the surface, right? Our conversation tonight was really around this whole idea of the ViewBoard software as instructional glue and kind of pulling all our resources into this one file that we can reuse multiple times. But there's so much we haven't even talked about yet in terms of, what you can do when you're in, toggling back and forth between Windows mode. There's so much. And one other thing I love, and Jeff, I hope you touch on this on Thursday, is this idea of having students write their name and annotate some of their work so that as you capture this stuff, you have built-in records of student documentation of the work you're doing with individual students. So if you need that for parent meetings, it's all part of your workflow. You have everything. Everything you do can be saved and archived and used in a meaningful way in your classroom.
So we have 2 additional questions here. All right, so when you, let's go back to the annotations first. So when you save with annotations, your original file stays so you can use it the next class.
So here's my file.
Yeah.
Right. So I made all my markups, after I saved it. Let's say class has ended and I close it and I say, do I want to save the current board? No, I just want to exit. So I've now.
Or you save as period by period.
Or I could save it. But if I want to save that file besides exporting it, I could do that. But here's my demo whiteboard file. when I reopen this now, it's going to be back the way it was at the beginning of class before I saved it. So see how everything is here. My videos, my table hasn't been marked up with Jeff's sloppy handwriting yet. I have my unedited files here. My video is still here. So you can use this to prep your lesson, save it, and reuse it as many times as you want. And like Jeff said, you have the option to save as, or you can just close out and not save it. For me personally, once I have that PDF file, I don't really want the marked up whiteboard file, but it would be no harm in saving it if I did. But the key is just not to save over the original file. Then I could just reopen that and I'm back to square one. Meaning I saved all that time of having to reopen all those resources at the beginning of class simply because I have it already ready in this file. And just so you know, I just to refresh you, I remember I'm using an ID 1330 board here, which is connected to my desktop. I'm using the ViewBoard software at home on my desktop. I'm not on a full-size ViewSonic screen. So that software can be used anywhere.
I just want to touch on one other thing about the saving. So when I'm saving this clean file, because I want to use it year after year, but the annotations really are to share, let's say in an IEP meeting or share with a parent. So they can't open the whiteboard files unless they have the whiteboard software. So for sharing and collaborating with other team members who might not necessarily be teachers, we really want to make it easy for them and just have it in that PDF. So I think the best workflow is to keep it clean and tidy whiteboard file and then have the PDF. And then the other question, just to keep us on time, was record feature. We'll show record feature at another time, but just in case people are curious, you did mention it. Recording is so important, especially in these uncertain times we're experiencing.
Love this.
Jeff's going to show you the recording feature. And in fact, this is as good of a time as any to announce this, but Jeff is now the official recorder and editor of the Partial Credit Podcast. So congratulations to Jeff. He's finding out about this for the first time right now. Good job, Jeff. You're such a recording guru that you've earned that job.
Thanks for
click on that
Jeff.
screenshot down there at the bottom, Jesse. Let's just pop it up so they can see, point to it and show them what the icon looks like and where they would get the record if they want to play with it. And then Thursday, Donnie and I will talk about it in more. Yeah, right down
so
there.
So right here, you'll actually see that I clicked on it and there's a little menu here. Jeff will go through all the different options for this menu, but this is an incredibly useful tool, particularly I think when you're in Windows toggle mode, because you don't want to lose some of that stuff that you're having and you can just get it to go right into your file. Like I said, we can spend hours unpacking the myViewBoard software and believe it or not, we have spent hours unpacking this with teachers. We love talking about it.
Yeah, and Jesse, to that point, the myViewBoard software is exactly like every other app. You're not going to break it by clicking around and seeing what different buttons do. Sometimes when we sit in these things, like we feel like, oh my goodness, there's so much. And yeah, you're always going to find those fun bells and whistles. But we've tried to show you all tonight just a variety of different things. We teach elementary, middle, or high school. We tried to show those cool fun little snippets that can hopefully start to get some creative juices flowing in your little brains. But definitely I always remember that when it comes to a tool like this. You're not going to break the app. You're not going to shut down ViewSonic because you clicked the wrong button. There's always that undo button too, right at the top, which helps.
That's true.
And if you break it, you can email me and I will appreciate it because then I can go back and tell my developers that something's wrong. It's not like break it, you buy it. You don't have to buy it. It is free.
That's true.
Yeah, the myViewBoard software receives the highest stamp of approval from the Partial Credit Podcast team.
100%. And it really has nothing to do with the fact that we're here doing this because Barry's paying us, I believe, in ham. So it's not like we're going to get rich doing this. So it really is just based on a Jim Sills in the audience too. I promised him at least a little bit of that ham. So it really is because I just see this as a tool for educators. And we haven't even gotten into the fact that one of the reasons that you would want to just save this file to your cloud drive, imagine Donnie's room gets flooded and he's got to move to another room. If you save all of your ViewSonic files and on your drive, You just pop into the room next door, use your phone to log in, and now that board is your board. For substitute teachers, they can just log in and start whiteboarding without signing into anything. Like the first part of the training that we do, we spend the first 3 hours doing everything without even logging into the board. And that's that high floor that I was talking about. So come back on Thursday. Donnie and I will talk about elementary stuff, and I'll blend some of the high school and really talk about the recording.
All right, so much shenanigans. So we have to just show the record button one more time from the start. Just start on a clean screen so everyone can follow.
Sure. So the record button, I'll just go to a new page. And down here on the bottom on our main toolbar, the third button over.
I'm sorry, will you hide your Zoom screen or Zoom tools for us? Because it's hidden. Thank you.
Okay. Right over here on the main toolbar, we see the third button over is our record button. When we click that, it actually gives us several options here, and you can hover over them to see what they are. Jeff's going to go on to them in detail.
Yeah, and to be clear, you only get the recording audio and video when you are logged in. You get the screenshot and the screen selection capability on without even being logged in. When you are logged in, then you can access the record audio and the video. So essentially you're using it to make a screencast of your entire lesson, or have a kid come up to the board, record that kid solving whatever problem it is, and then you could save that video elsewhere. It's just amazing.
The last thing I would just leave off with, and this is something Jeff and I found, like we were talking about some stuff a week ago, and even after all the time we've spent, there's still new things we learn about that we didn't even know you could do with the software, with the companion app, the fact that there's a laser pointer. I mean, there's layers upon layers of things that the ViewSonic engineers have thought of that it's clear to us that they've been working with educators throughout this whole process, because it took Google years to get to this point where they were, where their software really reflected the use cases of teachers. And I feel like the ViewBoard software is already there.
So I have a question. So Mary, I'm sorry, I'm confused, but thank you so much. Mary's is it different than the record on the front page of the ViewBoard? So Mary, I'm assuming based on what you're saying that when you're referring to the ViewBoard, it either has this like kind of galaxy look or rainbow colors, or maybe like an old chalkboard look, because we're currently using the Windows version of the software. So I just wanted to make sure we're all, so there's an Android built into the ViewBoard. So you might be thinking, because I don't know what the record on the front page of the ViewBoard, that you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
I think you're right, Barry. It's when the operating system comes up on the Android side, you have options of what you want to place on the front of that panel, and one of them is record.
Yeah. Okay, so then, oh no, Shannon, that's a great, that you're, so when, can you just bring up, can you just click the right click on the, when you go to sign in?
Sign yourself out, Jesse. Yeah, sign yourself out, yeah.
These are all great questions. So when he says like hand sign in, he means like up here where it says email and password. You don't type your email and password here. You're always using the big G. If you're a Google school, or if you're a Microsoft school, you're using the Microsoft icon. So just, you never wanted to use the email or the password, but I have to tell you 100%. Companion app all the way.
All the way.
All the way. I also love using my companion app as a mobile document camera. So I can walk around the classroom, I take a snapshot of great work, and then I can share it up to everyone in the class, all from my phone, which is super easy.
Well, and by the way, if you had like a series of slides you wanted to go through, your phone could also be your remote to go through the slides if you were doing like a presentation. There's just so many reasons you want that companion app.
And it doesn't, you can actually still, you can also install it on your class iPad or on your class tablet. It doesn't have to be a phone if people feel like
any Android or Apple device.
Exactly.
Yeah, this has been a lifesaver, the companion app, not just for the logging in, which it would be worth it just for that alone, but the throwing images up, being able to use it as a remote, being able to run pop quizzes, being able to approve students sharing their content, all of that can be done through the companion app.
Okay, so to show, so I just want to go back to Mary, because Mary, I feel like you're on the Android version, and you either need to have the built-in PC, the slot-in PC, or a connected PC to run what we're doing right now. She's on the Android version. So if you're connecting another device, then you would just switch the inputs, and there's something on the front of the view board which will tell you what input is active after you plug in that computer.
So Mary, do you have a PC that you're using as like a work computer? Because if you did, the view board also comes with a touch and an HDMI cable that would allow you, you have your Chromebox. Okay, and now you will have a different version of the whiteboard software that is going to come not from that Android panel, but once you're logged in with your Chromebox, you're going to have a different, you're going to have this whiteboard app through Chrome, not through the Android side. And it will do almost everything that the PC version does. Hope that helps. You're all Macs. Yeah. So so you'll be using probably the Android part of the ViewBoard software. And it is confusing because there's the Android OS that runs a ViewBoard. There is the Chromebox or Chromebook version that could be connected to the board, or it could be the Chromebox could be mounted in there. And then you can also have a slotted PC, or you could connect your PC as well. You can connect your Mac, but it's only going to work as a
did you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, that there is going to be a new release of software that is that works on the Mac OS, which is very
beautiful.
Hey,
Then that's going to open up the whole thing. Cats and dogs living together, Barry. Total anarchy.
Mass hysteria.
So just to let everyone know, the companion app that I'm referring to is I just type in myViewBoard companion app into whatever Play Store is your jam.
Well, and actually, if you click on the gear there, Jesse, you can actually pull up the QR code for both the Android and the Mac. Yeah, click on the app right there where it says app. There you go.
And
you
then
can scan it in right now by looking at the screen.
Just use your phone, look at the screen right now, and scan it in, and you can get the companion app. Donnie's doing that right now, so he'll be prepared for Thursday. He promises. All great questions, you guys. All great.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a lot to learn. But the thing that I want to say is you're walking away, not from here necessarily, but from any training that you would have gotten, being able to use this thing, as a pretty amazing whiteboard. And so the things that Jesse showed and what Donnie and I'll go over are sort of, things you want to think about. Okay, I've got this down. I can do I can save this. I can annotate on this. Now what's next? And it's the recording. It's the changing of the pens. It's the using the widgets inside of the magic box. It's a host of other things that will be available to you. But if you're not ready, at its minimum, using it as a whiteboard, recording it, projecting your screen, that to me, if I'm an administrator in your building, I'm just happy to see you making the learning visible for the kids. And we can do that without all of these spells and whistles.
I mean, like with any tool, right? It's just a great way to augment your instruction. And sometimes that means you're just using it as a dry, like a substitute dry erase board where it's a little bit more visible and you can save it to share later. Other times it's going to be that interactive workspace where students are actually up there watching videos and then solving problems around it. So you can have a record of that work.
So now if I want to listen to you guys more, because you're pretty funny, how do I find you again?
Now, wait, which one's pretty and which one's funny?
No, I'm the pretty one and you guys are the funny one.
I'll go with that.
We'll take that.
You can find us at partial.credit. Who knew the credit was a domain, but we are
Donnie did.
Donnie actually
I did.
So
that's why he is the 2021 Kentucky Teacher of the Year.
The former Kentucky Teacher of the Year, Donnie Piercey. Yeah, so we have been recording for a few years. We've done a bunch of live events where we have done like live episodes in front of 400 people. But I think we've had some conversations with some really amazing people. And actually, to give Donnie full credit. Oh, see what I did there? Full credit. But as as Kentucky Teacher of the Year, we were able to be introduced to some really amazing teachers from around the country who also had been named Teachers of the Year in their state. Just an amazing group of people. We just interviewed,
including the National Teacher of the Year, Juliana,
including the National Teacher of the Year. We recently interviewed the Kentucky State Commissioner for Education. That was a great conversation. And just to kind of give you a sense of what that would look like, how do we mix in the shenanigans of the pop culture with the education? We had a really good conversation on the state of equity in Kentucky, followed up by what if we were to pick teachers from 80s movies and draft them into schools of our own. We did that with the commissioner. And that's the kind of thing we do on the Partial Credit podcast. Some serious, some funny, but always relevant.
Awesome.
Well, mostly relevant.
Mostly, I was going to say, that's our other podcast we're starting, mostly relevant.
Mostly relevant.
All right, you guys were awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, last thing, Shannon said, my companion app says token expired. Is it a good time to answer? I'm sure. What do you guys think about token expired? Yeah, Google has this thing with tokens. I always think of them as like little trolls that are collecting my tokens. Sometimes I just restart, close out of all the Google, because you probably have several instances of Google open. I usually just close everything down and restart and try again.
And and Shannon, are you at your work place right now looking at your board, or are you just looking at the companion app? Because the board too needs to, you need to make sure that it has been processed by your IT so that it can accept the companion app.
And Shannon, at my work last week, actually, one of my coworkers had that token error pop up, and it was just a simple restart. And then the next morning it seemed to work fine.
All
Donnie,
right.
that sounds like the equivalent of restart your computer.
It is, but I was
Just restart your
trying to
computer.
sound more fancy.
I know.
So fancy. All right. All of our guests, you guys were awesome. Asked so many great questions and so much participation. Loved it. As always, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And everyone's ready to listen to your podcast.
And don't forget to tune in Thursday for more from Donnie and Jeff.
Exactly. More on Thursday. See you guys later. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ham's in the mail.
Bye.